distinct player anymore when you go look at kids?
Well, I don't know if Gavin doesn't want to leave from being with the back to the basket and not be out there 12 feet, but we need him to be down in there. I don't know. I think with the infusion of the European game, there's so few guys who have back to the basket skills. I don't know necessarily if they don't want to be with their back to the basket, but they're a better basketball player facing. And so our goal with all of our centers is have the ability to do anything they're good enough to do on the court. So if Gavin Ware can shoot threes, then I would want him to shoot threes. But Gavin Ware has a good 15 to 17 foot touch, and we want to make sure we use that in some of our offense. So you'll see some of that this year. And I think you saw some of it last year where he hit a couple shots from that area. But he is best minding his business in the post there.
Coach, what did Craig gain from last year that's going to help him this year?
Well, I think the biggest thing, if you want to ask that question, is experience. I think most freshmen coming into that situation he came into, they don't get that playing time right away as a freshman. And because of the circumstances that we were in, he was thrust into playing a lot right away. Not only playing a lot, but actually to manufacture offense. There's a difference. You look at Michael Frazier, who was a really good freshman at Florida, but he didn't have to manufacture offense. He kind of stood in the corner, and when guys made plays and he was open, he shot threes. But for us, like, we needed Craig Sword and Fred Thomas and Gavin Ware to actually manufacture offense as a freshman. So the thing I wanted to do with Chicken in the offseason, I want to treat him like an elite NFL running back. I wanted him to put on enough weight where he could take hits because he's always penetrating the lane. But I also didn't want him to put on too much weight where he took away from his explosiveness and his athleticism.
How much weight has he put on?
He's put on about 14 pounds. He's at 199 pounds right now.
You did that then, man?
Yes.
From that standpoint, how proud are you of Gavin trying to get down to the 260 that you'd like him to be at to start the year?
He's been terrific because what we're asking Chicken and Fred Thomas to do is actually easier than what Gavin Ware has to do, because Gavin Ware has to be 24-hour aware of what he's eating and what he's doing with his dietary intake. So right now he's about 263 pounds. He played last year at about 275 pounds. And so to me, that means that Gavin Ware is serious about being a good basketball player, because that takes intrinsic motivation, because we're not going to be around him 24 hours a day monitoring his dietary intake. I think the biggest improvement that a person has made in the offseason in terms of strength and conditioning, though, is Fred Thomas. Fred Thomas played last year at about 185 pounds, and right now he's at 207 pounds. And so he's really done a terrific job of like getting bigger and stronger. So I think that's really going to help his individual game.
Chicken? I'm trying to figure out the nickname. Chicken. Where did that come from?
Well, his mother told me the story. When he was an infant and a baby, he was so thin that he looked like, they said, like a little chicken wing. And so at that point in time, they always called him a little baby chicken wing. And then as he grew older, I guess the name shortened. So it would go from being a little baby chicken wing to just a chicken wing. And then it went from a chicken wing to chicken, and now pretty much everybody calls him Chick. You know, if you call Craig, he doesn't answer to it, because to him that's his father. And so my wife refused to call him Chicken. She would sit there and say, Craig. He would never answer. I said, you're going to have to call him Chicken if you want him to respond.
How much has your motion offense changed with him moving to the 2 and IJ coming in at the point?
Well, I think it'll change in the initial thrust of the motion offense, but in the half-court setting, it really shouldn't change very much. I think the beautiful thing about the motion offense is it allows you to do anything you're good enough, but also you could be at any different spot at any different moment in the motion offense. So it shouldn't change too much. I think the thing that will change is guys having a grasp and a concept of the motion offense that they didn't have. Anytime you have experienced basketball players in your program, your motion offense is always going to be better.
What are your thoughts on Coach Cal getting so much publicity? Last night this place was crowding around him, uncomfortably crowding around him. The players from some of the other teams also, there was a little uneasiness talking about them. Do they have that big of a shadow over this conference?
Well, it doesn't bother me at all, and hopefully it doesn't bother our players at all. I think right now there's a kind of a rock star status to Coach Cal, and then the guys coming in, they're like the Beatles. And so there's a lot of things to be played out. But I don't think you can concern yourself with that. If you start getting wrapped up in those types of things, then you're not really concentrating on what you need to concentrate on. Coach Kyle's done an unbelievable job of recruiting, but I think what gets lost in the shuffle is he's done a good job of coaching, and I think he doesn't get enough credit for that. So the thing I enjoyed about coaching my team is that we were never afraid of the moment. When we went to go play at Kentucky, when we went to go play at Florida, our guys weren't afraid of the moment. If you have guys that are afraid of the moment, then you can't compete. And so our guys are probably a little bit too confident going into the situation like that. But I'd much rather have them that way than the other way.
Is one of the big things with IJ about how your bigs and maybe your wings want to run, and have you noticed a difference with that, with IJ having the ball? Gavin talked about how he motivates me to run because then I might get it because he has already that in his mind. He already has that in his skill set.
He's a pass first point guard, and I think the biggest thing about IJ is he wants everybody around him to have success. He cares about guys being good. He cares about the team being good. And I think he's in a unique situation where he can come in and facilitate to some good players. He doesn't have to be the man. But I think it's going to allow some of the guys on our team to be better basketball players because now Chicken can move to his natural position of the two guard. And anytime that IJ sees him, like he's going to give the ball to Chicken, kicking the ball ahead because he knows Chicken is so good in the open court. So I'm really excited about IJ because I think he has some natural leadership ability. And at that point guard position, that's important. But the biggest thing is he's just a tough kid. He's not afraid to stick his nose in there.
Is there a